Okay, good afternoon class. We're going to pick up where we left off before the weekend began with discussing Darwin's theory of natural selection. As you know, we can kind of cut this theory down to a particular phase, which is Darwin's theory of natural selection is survival of the fittest. So the fittest individuals in a population will survive and reproduce and produce new animals within that population. What we mean by fitness, remember, is not necessarily the biggest or the strongest animal. It's the animal that is most fit to its environment for that time. So, in this case, with the finches, as we discussed previously, we have birds from all different types of beak size. We have big beaks, medium beaks, and small beaks, and males and females both have big and small beaks in this population. And why they can survive with different size beaks is that they feed on different seeds. So we have these large seeds over here. The birds with big beaks are able to crack those seeds open easier and feed on them. And you have these smaller seeds where the small beak birds are actually able to handle them better, whereas the big beak birds would just drop them on the ground. It would be like if you happen to try to pick up something with one of those grabbing claws. It's a lot harder than picking them up with your hands. So these birds with smaller beaks are able to handle the small seeds better and feed off them. And if we took this population in general, these are just some examples of individuals within, you would potentially see this very bell-shaped distribution to the population with beak width on the x-axis and number of birds on the y, and you see the small beaks are on this left side all the way over to the big beaks on the right side. And these populations, let's say, were staying pretty stagnant for a long time. This distribution stayed the same. This is generation 1. Let's say between generation 1 and generation 2, there was a drought. And let's say the drought affected small seeds differently than big seed plants. And it eliminated most of the small seeds. When you don't have that food source, the small beak birds would possibly die, leaving only the big beak birds left in the population to reproduce and to make the second generation. So what we see between generation 1 and generation 2 is a shift in this trait that is beak width. So if the mean, let's say, was 20 or 33 centimeters, in this, it might be 44 centimeters in generation 2. And this works well in most populations. As far as how evolution acts, this is basically what evolution is. It's this change from traits to other traits, or increase in traits or decrease in traits. That's basically how evolution operates. But as Darwin was making this theory of evolution, there's these problems that he ran into. And some of these problems are what we're going to be jumping into today. So if you look down on the piece of paper that I provided you at the beginning of class, you'll see some examples of animals that differ between males and females. And I would like a volunteer to kind of tell me some of the traits that they see different. Yes, you.
Is it the deer, like they have antlers, the males do?
Yep.
That one. And then these frogs, it looks like the male frog is a lot more brightly colored.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So, in general, what we can kind of say about these traits are that males possess these flashy traits, while females possess more cryptic traits that blend into the habitats better. This is a very general statement. This doesn't apply to all animals, but it definitely applies to a lot of populations, and this troubled Darwin a lot. He would think that the way the environment acts on certain individuals would be the same whether they're male or female. So, for instance, peacocks. You've all seen either peacocks at the zoo or on the internet or a magazine. They have these big, beautiful feathers. Well, that's only male peacocks. If you see peahen, which is the female peacock, they're pretty bland looking. They're very drab color. They don't stand out at all. And this troubled Darwin a lot. In fact, he said once, "A peacock feather, when I stare upon it, it makes me sick." And why it made him sick was because he thought that this flew in the face of his theory of natural selection. He thought that the animals that would survive the best would be able to be the most fit. And in the peacock's case, the male's feathers are not helpful for survival at all. They weigh down the peacock, they make it harder for him to fly, they cost energy to produce, so instead of investing energy in motion or reproduction, they're investing into these giant feathers, and these feathers are colorful, and they attract predators to them, so they have a higher predation rate. So why have these traits? Well, Darwin spent a long time thinking about this, and it turned out that there is another part to this fitness equation. Reproduction. So, these traits that are flashy, like deer antlers, or colorful frog skin, or peacock feathers, are actually what females in those populations find attractive. So, if we have this hypothetical case where we have peacock A and peacock B, peacock A could be this very bland but very cryptic animal that is able to blend into the habitat, able to fly away when a predator sees it. That animal may live forever and may have very high survival, but it doesn't have the second half of that fitness element, which is reproduction. If it doesn't have these characteristics that the female peahens in that population find attractive, then it's never going to reproduce and pass on its genes to the next generation. Peacock B, on the other hand, it may only live for 1 year because it's very flashy, very colorful, but if peahens find it attractive, they're going to reproduce with each other, and then you have these traits, these flashy traits getting passed on to the next generation, whereas the peacock A does not have those traits and does not get his genes passed on to the next generation. So, what I want you to do now is flip over that sheet of paper that I handed out, and there's going to be a new organism on it that you've potentially never seen before. This is a beetle, and based on what we've learned about traits that males and females possess in today's exercise, you should now be able to circle which male you think, or which animal you think is a male and which you think is a female. While you do that, I'm going to give you a minute to do that. I want to kind of go over where we'll be heading in the next few days. We're going to be talking about why females are the choosy ones, why males are the ones that normally possess these flashy traits, and then why are these the traits that females find attractive. For instance, why are the peacock's feathers the things that the females are looking at, and not maybe like eye color or beak size. So, I'm going to come around and pick those up, and kind of be thinking about where we'll be heading in the next few days as I do so.